A very good, cold, rainy morning to you all, captains, and welcome aboard. This is Captain Simwin speaking, and on today's flight, I will be continuing my FlySafair Airlines career progression through the use of a pilot's life chapter 2. And for today's flight, we will be flying back from King Shaka International Airport all the way to CapeTown International Airport, as these two airports are operated as being part of FlySafair's operation hubs. And as you can see in front of you, we'll be flying the beautiful PMDG 737-800, and that will be the single cabin variant, meaning that we only have one tier of cabin list, and that being the economy class. And as usual, we will be utilizing BeyondATC for our air traffic control, SelfLoadingCargo to manage cabin operations, and GSX for the ground services. And as a note, for the SelfLoadingCargo, we will be using the simple mode, and we've just recently updated our SelfLoadingCargo because they issued out an update yesterday on the 17th of April, and it looks quite nice. I just hope that it functions much better with lesser crashes. With further stability testing, and if it really plays out well, we will then jump and use the interactive mode. But for now, just to keep things, as simple as possible, we will be using the simple version. As a disclaimer, this is a simulation, so certain procedures will be streamlined for pacing and entertainment. And then in order to maintain focus on aircraft handling, the radio communications will be delegated to the BeyondATC AI assistant, and this will be done right after we complete our pushback procedures. So please note that while I am aiming for realism, minor deviations from the SOPs will definitely occur. So get ready for an immersive experience, and let's navigate the skies together. Let's begin. Just before we hop into the aircraft, I like to say that this is one of my favorite conditions to fly in, and that's in a rainy weather condition. Right, let's hop in and let's start up our aircraft. So we will be heading to our overhead panel, and we will turn on the batteries, then continue to turn on our ground power. From there, we can turn on our emergency lights, turn on the logo lights, and turn on our position lights. And then once that is done, it's rainy, we will be turning on our probe heats as well as our window heats, and then we can head to our DS panel and we can switch them to the nav position. We're just going to wait for the align sign to illuminate. Awesome. And then we can just see how much time. We usually have around 7 to 8 minutes for alignment, so we'll just wait for that. Awesome. Let's head on down to our flight tablet and just request our flight plan for today's flight. There we go. And then before we're going to do anything else, we'll just proceed. We'll request refueling from GSX.
Refueling truck is on its way.
Proceed to request the catering service.
Please don't load aircraft until the fuel truck arrives and ask to do it.
And then proceed to request boarding as well.
Boarding requested.
Awesome. With that being done, we can then head to our flight plan and just have a general overview of today's flight. So we will be departing King Shaka International, heading down to CapeTown International Airport. And as you can see from the map, we will be flying across the coast in a southerly direction,
Vehicles are on
heading
their way.
towards Cape Town. Awesome. So our expected departure time is 16:50. It's 06:50. We've just added additional time just to make sure that our alignment and timing can be correct with self-loading cargo and so forth, but we will definitely be departing much earlier than this. Alright, our cost index for today's flight is 58. We've got cruise winds coming in from 276 at 13 knots, and we've got an average wind component of -11. That just indicates a slight headwind, so we might be taking a bit of a hit on our extra fuel that we will be carrying on
Please don't
board.
load aircraft
And
until
our
the fuel
allocated
truck arrives and asked to do it.
cruising altitude for today's flight is 34,000 feet, and we have an estimated takeoff weight of 72 tons, little tons shy of the maximum takeoff weight of 79 tons. So we are flying very heavy today, and that is intentional. In terms of our block fuel, we are carrying 11 tons of fuel, and we are carrying 10% of extra fuel just for instances where we might have extended go-arounds, extended holds, extended taxis, extended holds, and the need to perform a go-around at our arrival airport. And for our routing, our first waypoint is the Durban waypoint, and I've noted that on my spreadsheet. And our last waypoint before we begin arrival procedures is the Gatton waypoint, and we are expected to arrive on runway 19, or we've planned for an arrival on runway 19. Awesome. Let's head to our charts, look for our departure charts, and then just search for our airport chart. We're going to search for that and then pen it, and then for the arrival we're going to do the same, look for the airport chart and just pen it. Then we can go to our pen charts, open up our airport chart, and let's note our ATIS frequency is 127.0, and then we do have King Shaka ground and tower and apron. So let's have a look. We have ground on 1 to 1.65, apron 1 to 2.65, and then we have tower on 1 on 8.45. I just want to contrast this with GSX and look at the frequencies GSX is offering to see if we don't have any clearance. So we have ATIS, we have ground, and then we have tower, and we have track on and center. Awesome. Alright, so we will contact tower and then just ask for our frequency, our clearance from tower. So we have King Shaka tower on 118.45. We will adjust this if this is incorrect. So we have tower on 118.45, we have ATIS on 127.0, and then for our arrival airport, I'm assuming ATIS is the same frequency. Yes, ATIS is the same frequency, 127.0. Awesome. Let's tune into our ATIS frequency, have a listen for the conditions today and what is expected of us, and then we'll come back and program the flight. So head over to the radio stack and then just tune in our ATIS frequency, that being 127.0, and then we'll hop outside the aircraft just to see what's happening while we are listening to our ATIS.
Runway 06, transition level 060. Read back all hold short instructions. Advise on initial contact you have information November. King Shaka Airport information November. 060 Tree Super. Wind 205 at 5. Light rain. Ceiling 2,300 overcast. Tree 000 overcast. Temperature 17. 2.15. QNH 1026. Landing and departing runway 06. Transition level 060. Read back all hold short instructions. Advise on initial contact you have information November. King Shaka Airport information November.
Alright, that's our ATIS for today. So we are departing from runway 06. We have temperatures of 17 degrees and a QNH of 1026. We can just cue that in so long. 1026. Awesome. And then let's go back to our flight tablet here and just search for our departures. So our first waypoint is the Durban waypoint, and there we go. And then we will be departing runway 06. So we can pin this, and then we can have a look for 06 departure. Our first waypoint is Durban 1A, so Durban 1 Alpha. So the reason why I'm doing this is that I'm just trying to predict the departure that will be offered, or the various options that we have, just so that I can catch what ATC is saying very quick. I've learned this from Vetson, where you try and predict what they're going to say and then just listen out to what they read out and just tick. It makes it easier for the read back. And then we've got an initial climb of 7,000 feet. Just going to note that. Just adding a few more notes onto my spreadsheet.
Welcome on board.
Awesome. Right, let's tune into the tower frequency and then let's get our clearance for today's flight. So tower on 118.45. Alright, let's proceed to ask for our clearance. King Shaka Tower, good day. This is SouthAfrica 187 with information November requesting clearance to CapeTown International Airport.
SouthAfrica 187, King Shaka Tower. Expect runway 24 to Bean 1 Bravo departure with the to Bean transition. Initial climb to 6,000 feet. Squawk 5332.
This way, please.
Get to CapeTown International Airport. Expect runway 24 on the Turbine 1 Bravo departure with the turbine transition. Initial climb to 6,000 feet and a squawk code of 5332, SouthAfrica 187.
This way.
SouthAfrica 187, read back correct.
This way.
Call me back when ready for pushback or engine start.
Call back when ready for pushback and engine start. SouthAfrica 187.
Welcome on board.
Alright, captains, and that was our clearance for today's flight. As you can see, we have a slight deviation from the ATIS itself, and a slight deviation from what was planned initially. So let's just carry on and key in what we have received from the tower frequency. We'll go to our FMC, position initialization, and then we are departing FALE. You can insert that, go to the next page. I like copying the right, it's exactly the same previous, and then insert that into the IRS position. And then we can go to the routing page, and then we can insert our origin as FALE, our destination as FACT, and that's CapeTown International, and our flight number for today is SouthAfrica 187. Awesome. And then we can hit the next page and open up our routing, and then just key in our routes for today's flight. So our first waypoint is Turbine, so we'll insert that, and then after Turbine we're going to use Uniform Zulu 3, the airway, and we are going to make our way to SRAC. And then from SRAC we're going to use Uniform Quebec 5-1, and then we are going to make our way to Getten.
Arrow.
And then we can activate this and hit execute. Then we can go to our departure and arrival page. For the departure, we are given runway 24, and we will be using the Turbine 1 Bravo. Can hit execute, head back to the index, and then for arrival we are planning for arrival on the Getten 1 Bravo, and we'll just hit execute and confirm the arrival runway when we get closer to our arrival airport. Good, we have some fuel in the center tanks as well, always important to note. Can go to our legs page, route data, and then request our winds.
Good morning.
Or before I do this, let's go back to the route page, performance initialization. Use the right FMC, go back, and then go to the payload just to compare the weights. So we do have a zero fuel weight of 61.3. According to our flight plan, that is correct. So let's key in our zero fuel weight, 61.3. And then in terms of the reserves, we've got FinRes plus alternate of 4.3, and then we've got contingency of 753. So 4.3 plus 7.5 will make that.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome on board this self-loading cargo service.
That will give us
Please place your large
5.1.
bags into the overhead locker wheels first, and keep your small items under the seat in
And
front
then
of
we
you.
do have a cost
These include
index of
laptops, handbags,
58.
duty-free and loose items of clothing. Once you have safely stowed your
And
cabin bag,
our
please
block
take your
view
seat.
is
To help us ensure a prompt departure, we
11.0.
would kindly ask that you keep the aisle clear, enabling all remaining customers to board. Your
Clear that.
seatbelt can now be fastened
Clear.
ready for departure.
11.0.
This is a no-smoking service. Thank you for observing this
And
policy.
then we do have a allocated cruising altitude of 34,000 feet for today's flight, so 340. Our cruise winds are coming in from 276 at 13. Can insert that.
Welcome on board.
And then we've got an average ISA of positive 4, so this gives us minus 48. Set that. Transition altitude is 6,000 feet. Hit execute. Awesome. Then we can go to our N1 limit and then just run our performance calculations. So we are expected to depart from runway 24.
Arrow.
We can import the weights from the aircraft, we can import the weather, and then we can indicate that we do have a wet runway. So we will, I wouldn't say
King
it's
Shaka
standing
Tower,
water,
Severe
it's just wet.
276, ILS Yankee runway 06.
And then we can hit calculate. So we don't have a derated takeoff, and our selected temperature is 49.
Severe 276, King Shaka Tower, wind 215 at
So we
6,
can go
runway
49.
06 cleared to land.
And then for takeoff,
This way, please.
we have winds coming in from 200 at 6, and then we don't have a slope. So next page, 206, and then we don't have a slope on our runway.
Arrow.
Awesome. And then the next page, we are having a flaps 5 departure,
Arrow.
and we have a CG of 18.4.
This way, please.
Then let's have a look at our speeds. We have 44, 48, 52, 44, so 48, 48, 52, that's still fine. And we are good. We can head to the legs page, route data, and then request the winds.
Good morning. May I see your boarding pass, please? Arrow.
And then we can load that in and hit execute.
Arrow.
Clear the extra message, and then you can go to our descent page, forecast, load the winds as well. and execute. Awesome.
This way.
Can go N1 limit page. Let's have a look at our N1 93.3. That's fine. And then given that most of our passengers have boarded the aircraft, let's just turn on our APU. So we're going to turn on the forward fuel pump and then proceed to switch our APU to the on position and then turn on the APU. And then we can hop outside just to listen to the APU start up. Alright, and that's our APU started up. We might as well just adjust our cameras so that we do get the pushback camera. Let's do this. Yep, I want to get the pushback camera where we can see the engines from the belly of the aircraft. Awesome stuff. And then we can head back into the aircraft. Alright, and turn on the APU generators. We have a cruising altitude of 34,000 feet, so we can set that. Alright, and then we can turn off the ground power and then proceed to turn on our APU bleeds, but we are not going to turn the air conditioning systems on as yet because we will be turning them off again in order to start the engines. Cabin utilities can come on, passenger screens can come on, and then we can switch to track 1 over there. Awesome. Turn on all fuel pumps, including the centers as we have fuel in the center, and then seat belt signs can go to the on position, anti-collision light can come on. Awesome. And then for our flight, we do have a initial climb of 6,000 feet. That's good. And then our V2 for today is 152, so we can kill that in. And then our runway heading is 243. Can cue that in. And then our squawk code is 5332, so 533 and 2. We can switch to TA only. Awesome. And then we can hit our engine screen over there and systems below. That's fine. And then we can turn on our flight directors.
All aircraft be advised information pop now current. QNH 1027.
QNH 1027. Update that. Awesome. Alright. And then once this is done, we can request for preparation for pushback and departure. And then in the meantime, our co-pilot can proceed to request for pushback and departure. So co-pilot, request pushback and departure, please.
SouthAfrica 187, holding short, runway 06.
Hello, Captain. We are ready for pushback.
SouthAfrica 187, you are nowhere near 06. Why in the world are you asking for departure clearance?
Alright, let's just switch to the ground frequency and then request pushback and departure
Roger that.
again.
SAFAir 187.
Because we were told to go back to tower, but anyway,
Ladies and gentlemen,
let's switch to
we now
ground.
ask for your attention while we
Press
take you through the
pushback and
safety
engine
procedures on
start.
this aircraft. A safety card is in your
SAFAir
seat pocket showing
187,
the exit
gate
routes,
Alpha
oxygen
12,
masks,
request
life jackets
pushback
and
and
brace
engine
position,
start.
which you must
We have
adopt if you
trim
hear
601,
brace.
so
There
you
are
can
two
set our
emergency
trim.
exits at the
SAFAir
rear,
187,
for in the middle and
King
to the
Shaka
left
ground,
of the cabin.
pushback approved.
Floor lighting will guide you to an exit. Please be
Okay,
aware
we've
that
been
your
cleared
nearest
to
exit
face
may be behind
northeast.
you. In an emergency,
Pushback and
leave all
engine
cabin
start
baggage
approved.
on board.
Face northeast.
Your
SAFAir
seatbelt is
187.
fastened, adjusted, and released as shown. It must be fastened when the seatbelt signs are on,
Just
and we
wait for
recommend that you keep it
GSX,
fastened at
okay.
all times. If the air supply fails, masks will drop
Ground
from above you.
operations, we can
Pull a
remove
mask towards you to start the
the
oxygen.
chocks.
Put the mask over your nose and mouth, hold in place with the strap, and pull on
Been
each side
told
to
to
adjust.
face northeast.
Put on your own mask before helping others. If we land on water, take the life jacket from under your seat.
Alright,
over your head.
northeast.
Pass the tapes around your
So
waist,
east is
click
90
together, and
degrees,
pull the
so
strap to
nose to
adjust.
the right, because
Do
we
not
want to
inflate
face
it inside
90.
the aircraft.
Release parking brakes,
When
please.
outside,
Can
inflate
release
by
the
pulling the
parking
toggle.
brakes.
If it fails to inflate or needs topping up,
We
blow
then proceed
into the
to turn
tube.
on the
There is
hydraulics.
a light and whistle for attracting
Started
attention.
Alright,
We also carry flotation
can
aids for
start
children. Your tray table must now be stowed,
engine number
armrest
2.
down, window blinds open, and seatbelt fastened.
Just wait for
We wish you a
20% on
pleasant
the
flight, and
N2.
thank you for flying with self-loading cargo.
We've got 20 pumping the fuel and then hop outside to have a listen to the startup. Man, we are gonna get trampled to death. Regardless of these shortcomings, this is still a great sim. The add-ons are still great, so much appreciated. Love it either way. Oh, it's pouring. It's pouring. I love this. It's pouring. Head back inside, check our switch. It's back to the off position. We can proceed to start engine number 1. Oh, very wet. Oh, I love this so much. I think we can adjust our calculations just to reflect standing water, but just to be safe.
Please set parking brakes.
Alright, wait for 20%. Pump in the fuel. Set the parking brake. Hop outside
Waiting
and listen.
confirmation for quick engine start.
Awesome, there we go. Head back inside. Startup looks good. Switch has turned off. Let's confirm that we have a good engine start.
Cockpit to ground. We have a good engine start.
Let's
You
turn
can
on
disconnect.
the engine generators.
Unlocking gear.
Turn off the APU. Then proceed to turn off the APU bleed. Turn on the engine bleeds. Turn on the packs. Turn on the recirculated air as well, and that's our air conditioning correct. Co-pilot, please request taxi to the active. Auto throttle
SAFAir
can come
187,
on.
request taxi.
Brakes RTO. Adjust
SAFAir
our cameras.
187, runway 24 taxi
Extend the
via
flaps.
Delta, Foxtrot, Bravo, November, Alpha, Mike.
Runway 24 taxi via Delta. Foxtrot.
There we
Bravo.
go. There are the
November.
flaps
Alpha.
extended.
Mike. SAFAir 187.
Bypass been removed. Left is clear. Right is clear.
Alright, pull left, pull right, pull up, pull down. Flight controls okay. Can clear this. Put our signature wave. Everything is good. Let's just look at our performance calculations and then just See if we select standing water what the difference is. Yeah, 145, 45, 54. And then we have no selected temperature. It's going to be a full toga takeoff. Alright, that's fine. We'll just carry on with the wet and calculate. Okay, that's fine. Our calculations are okay. Our aircraft is ready to taxi. Start our clocks. Turn on the taxi lights. Engines to the continuous.
SAFAir 261, ready for airways to Johannesburg.
And then let's proceed to taxi. Release the parking brake. Introduce some throttles, not more than 40%.
SAFAir 261, Kinshasa ground, expect runway 24 Greytown to Bravo departure, Greytown transition, initial climb to 6,000 feet. Squawk 1050.
Very, very heavy aircraft. As you can see, it took quite push to get us
Greytown to Bravo departure, Greytown transition. Squawk 1050. SAFAir 261.
SAFAir 261, read back correct. Call me back when ready for pushback or engine start.
Wilco, SAFAir 261. SAFAir 261, at ramp Bravo 1, request pushback and engine start.
SAFAir 261, Kinshasa ground, pushback and engine start approved. Face northeast.
Pushback approved, face northeast, SAFAir 261.
Bit more throttle. Keep on the center.
SAFAir 261, request taxi.
Got some company traffic following us out as well.
SAFAir 261, runway 24 taxi via Delta, Foxtrot, Bravo, November, Alpha, Mike.
Runway 24 taxi via Delta, Foxtrot, Bravo, November, Alpha, Mike, SAFAir 261.
Nice and long taxi, but we're almost there. Can increase the throttles a bit just to speed it up. Let's keep it under 30 knots and we should be good. Last view from the outside. Very nice. The co-pilot should be contacting tower shortly.
SouthAfrica 187,
There you
contact
go.
King Shaka Tower 118.45. Have a
Choose
good
the
morning.
speeds so you can make our turn.
Contact Tower 118.45, SouthAfrica 187.
And we can hold right here. That's perfectly fine. Pull up our parking brake. Set up the aircraft. So we're gonna turn on TARA, weather and turbulence on, weather radar on, terrain radar on, increase the range, landing lights on.
All aircraft be advised, information Quebec now current, QNH 1027.
Strobe lights on, beacon lights, QNH 1017, 1027, that's fine. Okay, projected takeoff set, flaps green, TARA is on, takeoff lights or landing lights are on, APUs off, engines in the continuous position, seatbelt signs on. Awesome. Co-pilot request departure. Let's have a look.
SouthAfrica 187,
We
ready
are
to go,
on time.
runway 24.
Crew are ready for takeoff. Awesome. I love this new interface from the update. Leaving King Shaka.
SouthAfrica
heading to
187, King Shaka Tower, wind 235 at 6, runway 24, cleared for takeoff.
Alright, and we have been cleared for takeoff.
Runway 24, cleared for takeoff, SouthAfrica 187.
So we ensure strobe lights are on, anti-collision on. Very, very heavy aircraft, it doesn't want to move at all. The weather radar is going crazy, but it should clear out as I upgrade or extend the range. Alright, we have been
SouthAfrica
cleared to
261,
go.
holding short, runway 24.
Let's get out of here.
SouthAfrica
Systems
261,
good.
hold short of 24. Affirm. Hold short of 24, SouthAfrica 261.
Knots.
SouthAfrica 261, runway 24, line up and wait. Line up and wait, runway 24, SouthAfrica 261.
Rotate. E2. Positive rate of climb.
Gear up. There we go. Oh, back inside. Nice. Pretty straightforward departure, so we are gonna turn on the autopilot.
SouthAfrica 261, King Shaka Tower, wind 235 at 6, runway 24, cleared for takeoff.
Bringing up the flaps.
Runway 24, cleared for takeoff, SouthAfrica 261.
Then you can hit VNAV as well.
SouthAfrica 187, contact Durban departure 125.75.
Flaps 1 selected.
Contact Durban departure 125.75. SouthAfrica 187.
Just for the sake of clicking the click points, let's go.
Durban departure, SouthAfrica 187,
Clean
2,800
flaps
feet.
selected.
SouthAfrica 187, Durban departure, identified. Climb to flight level 170.
170 selected.
Climb to flight level 170, SouthAfrica 187.
And then we can extend our range a bit. And let's just wait for ourselves to pierce through this cloud layer.
Durban departure, SouthAfrica 261, 1,100 feet.
We'll be piercing through it shortly, as you can see. The cloud cover is reducing.
Durban departure. Good morning. Identified. Climb to flight level 170.
Climb to flight level 170.
There we go,
SouthAfrica
piercing
261.
through it. Ah, beautiful blue skies. Our transition altitude is 6,000. So when we hit 6.3, we will select the standard pressure. 6.3 standard pressure selected. Awesome. We can introduce some panel brightness, screen brightness over there, screen brightness, and some more screen brightness. Awesome. Can also increase the brightness of the main panel. Increase the brightness as well.
Ladies and gentlemen, please keep your
Then you
seatbelts
can
fastened
increase the
while the
brightness
seatbelt
of
sign
the
is on.
panel as well.
We recommend that you keep your seatbelt fastened whenever you are seated. Toilets are located at each end of the cabin. Remember that smoking is not permitted at any time. This includes e-cigarettes. In
Watching
just a
for
few moments
10,000
we'll commence
feet
our
and then the
in-flight
lights
service,
come off.
offering you the chance to purchase from our selection of fresh food available today. All details can be found in your in-flight brochure. You can also purchase a selection of hot beverages together with drinks and snacks from the bar. We accept payment in pounds, euros, most major currencies and debit or credit cards.
10,000
The
lights
correct
can
change would be
come off.
greatly appreciated, and if we can be of any further assistance, then just ask us as we join you in the cabin shortly. Thank you.
Engines to the off position. Awesome.
Ladies and gentlemen, the captain has turned off the seatbelt sign, so you are now free to move around the cabin. However, for your safety, we do recommend that you remain seated with your belt fastened at all times during the flight. Thank
Let's
you.
have a look from outside. Oh, this looks beautiful. Beautiful, beautiful. this will be our view in preparation for when we do our touchdown. And head back to the front, hop outside the aircraft. I love how the weather is just cleared up. Let's take a wider view. Beautiful green landscape. Alright, hop back inside. Once we get cleared for the cruising altitude, I will then set it up on our flight management computer, and then we'll resort to leaving the aircraft to be flown by the autopilot, and then you yourself, captain, can just enjoy the climb to cruise, enjoy the cruise, enjoy the lo-fi music. And I will be back again when we approach the top of descent. I think when we're like 10 minutes away, but I will be just having a quick peep at the FMC to see how far we are from the top of descent. So we're just going to wait for our clearance to our cruising altitude, and then I'll give you the beautiful wing view and you can enjoy the scenery as well.
SaFair 187, contact Johannesburg Control East 119.9. Have a good morning.
Center on 119.9. SaFair 187. Have a good morning. Johannesburg Control East, SaFair 187. Through flight level 147 for flight level 170 direct to B.
SaFair 187, Johannesburg Control East. Identified. Climb to flight level 340.
Climb to flight level 340, SaFair 187.
Alright, we've been cleared to 340. Set that up. Just double check the pressurization panel. Yep, 340. Your tempo can come on. I always forget this. Alright, and we are good. And it is climbing, so expected to reach the top of climb in the next, let's say, 12 minutes. So I'm just gonna set a timer for 12 minutes. Alright, captains, enjoy the climb to cruise, enjoy the cruising phase, enjoy the music and enjoy the
flight level 140 for flight level 170 direct GYV. SaFair 261, Johannesburg Control East. Good morning. Radar contact. Climb to flight level 340. Climb to flight level 340, SaFair 261.
minutes we will be starting the in-flight drinks service. If you could please ensure all aisles are clear and bags are placed in the overhead lockers, that would be much appreciated. Thank you. Serve our hot drinks menu. Please make sure your tray table is in the down position and clear any items from the aisle. Thank you.
Have a good morning. CapeTown Control East, SouthAfrica 187, flight level 340.
CapeTown Control East, Safair 101, fly at level 360.
Safair 101, CapeTown Control East, identified. SouthAfrica 841. SouthAfrica 841, descend to flight level 190.
Alright, captains, and we are...
Descend to flight level 190, SouthAfrica 841.
We are 9 minutes away from the top of descent. We can just wait for
SouthAfrica 841, descend
ATC
to flight
clearance
level
and then
140.
proceed. Just gonna turn off the
Descend to flight level 140,
center fuel
SouthAfrica
pumps
841.
because they no longer have fuel. Awesome. And then we have about 60 nautical miles to the top of descent. Let's head on down to our legs page. Alright, go to the fixes. So we're looking for fact, which is our arrival airport, and then we need to draw in 100 nautical mile radius so that we can mark or illustrate our proximity to the frequency, the ATS frequency for arrival. Let's have a look. Alright, we still have some distance away from that. That's fine. So we're just going to wait for clearance and then proceed to make our descent. Let's just hop outside the aircraft and see the scenery. Beautiful scenery. Wow, this is incredible. Oh wow, this is incredible. And there's the coast to our left hand side. we can hit the cruise page and then just continue to check. We have 5 minutes left. Then let's have a look at what's happening. So cruise, no passenger issues at the moment. Good flight, 1 passenger is awaiting service. Let's turn on the seatbelt sign. Alright, our passengers are putting on the seatbelts. I love this new interface here. I really love it. Cabin communications, put on the bedside. But I guess that's because I'm not communicating. But the flight comfort level is pretty high. Experience is good. Flight services, crew rating, it's on the good side. Awesome. We have around 5 minutes to the top of descent. I think we can continue to call for ready for descent. Co-pilot, state that we are ready for descent.
SaFair 187, ready for descent.
SaFair 187, Deaton 1 Bravo, runway 19er, descend to flight level 240.
Deaton 1 Bravo, runway 19er, descend to flight level 240, SaFair 187.
We are arriving via GT1 Bravo and then we have runway 19er. So we can look for ILS Zulu 19, insert that, and then we will be given the transition when we approach our ATIS, or not the ATIS but the arrival frequency. They will tell us our transition and then we'll continue accordingly, so we can execute that. Right, and then they did say descend to 240, so we can key in 240. But as soon as we go off profile and BeyondATC hasn't cleared us for further descent altitude, we will manually just override that and continue our descent to the final approach altitude. So we've got 240 and we can hit descent now and execute. And then let's continue. So we're going to go to our legs page, next page, runway 19, fix, insert, go back to the legs page, next page, runway 19, fix, next page, insert, want a radial for 10 nautical miles, and then we want a radial for 5, previous page, radial 25, radial 20, and radial 15. Awesome, there we go. We are set with our radials. Okay, yeah, good. We have a nice and easy descent there, and that's mainly because we are still below profile, so our descent is not that exaggerated, so we are good. Let's try and calculate our landing. So let's just zoom into the tablet here. We're expecting runway 19, dry conditions, full flaps landing. Import the weather, hit calculate, and we have around 3.2 kilometers worth of runway for landing. We can go landing en route. I suppose the aircraft is still a little bit too heavy to do the calculations. There we go. So but that's fine. And then as per standard procedure, we'll do auto brake 3. for the landing. Let's have a look at what's happening in the cabin. Alright. Let's have a look at our outside air temperatures. We have -50. We can turn on the anti-ice, but as soon as we go below or above -10 really, then we don't need to have them on. Let's go to our charts. Gives us some time, so we're going to go to the search tab, arrival, and then we are arriving via the Geten 1 Bravo. When that approach, we got runway 19 Zulu. Okay, that's good. Let's open up our arrival chart or go to pend and then approach. Yep, let's key in our information. So our localizer frequency 109.1, we can key that in 109.1 and then just hit activate. And then 109.1 activate. So in our activated line we do have 109.9, 109.1 and 109.1. Our final heading 191, you can key that in. So 191. Awesome. And then our final approach altitude is 3,000 feet, and then for the minimums we will be using 347 for the minimums. So let's just key that in, 347, 347. Awesome. Right, we are still well below profile, so we're still doing good on our descent. Can increase the range. And then from our weather, let's have a look. This is where we're currently flying at the moment. And then let's have a look at the arrival weather. Okay, this was generated on the 18th at 08 Zulu, just 12 minutes ago. We have winds coming in from 050 at 4 knots. Visibility okay. Temperatures of 26 degrees, 2.10, QNH 1016. Nothing significant, so 1016. Let's just insert an interim QNH here, 1016. There we go. And then we can go to our init page, full flaps landing, key ready. So we do have our reference speed set, we do have our minimum set, QNH is on standby. Right, we are catching up to the glide now. As you can see, we are decreasing our range from the glide. We have -7, so we can turn off the anti-ice. That's fine. Yep, we are definitely catching up to the glide nicely. And then let me just add a final radial again for 100 nautical miles. Okay, let's listen in on our ATIS, which is 127.0.
48 Zulu. Wind 065 at 4. Temperature 24. Dew point 11. QNH1016. VFR conditions. Landing and departing runway 19er. Transition level 080. Temporary flight restrictions are in effect for Cape Town.
SafeAir 187.
Advise on
Descend to flight level 120.
Descend to flight level 120.
Descend to flight level 120, SafeAir 187.
There we go. And then which information do we have?
SafeAir 101, Cape Town Control East. Expect Erded 1 Bravo, runway 19er.
Cape Town Airport information November.
Okay.
Expect Erded 1 Bravo, runway 19er. SafeAir 101.
Get some company traffic. So I have a QNH, so you can go to the descent page, forecast. QNH of 1016. Can insert that, and that aligns with our blend QNH there. That's good. And then our transition altitude is flight level 8080, which is 8,000 feet. Awesome. And then I guess we're gonna have some radar vectors, because when we go to the legs page, yep, there we go, we've got some vectors to get to runway 19er, so we are good. Pitching up nicely. We're onto the glide slope. Our height difference is not looking too bad right now. It's decreasing very nicely, so we should be on the profile, I meant, not the glide slope. Should be on the profile soon enough. And our descent rate will then increase from 1,000 feet to maybe 2,000 feet per minute. And there comes the profile, so our throttles do go to the idle position, as the speed will be increasing when the descent rate increases as well. There we go, have a descent rate of around 2,400 feet
Ladies
per
and
minute.
gentlemen, we will shortly be landing.
And we are good.
Please ensure your cabin bag is safely stowed with your laptop inside. Your tray table must be stowed, armrest down and window blind open. You now need to be seated with your seatbelt fastened ready for landing. Please help us by handing in any rubbish, newspapers, or magazines that you do not want to take with you.
Display and just
The
have a
toilets
look.
are no longer in service. Thank you.
Now we're basically just fiddling around, because we are ready for our landing. That's us right in the center. And let's adjust our height and see. Zoom, okay. This is a very informative heads-up display. Descent rate 2,000 feet per minute. Altitude currently 20,000 feet. Speeds 305 knots. We haven't picked up the DME yet. Our final heading 191. Our current heading 243. This is pretty nice. guess seating position just has to be altered so that, there we go. Okay, and then the height, let me try the height. Nope. This is the height you should be sitting at. Okay, that's clear enough.
Safair 129, Cape Town Control East. Expect Erders 1 Bravo, runway 19er.
Can decrease our range.
Expect Erders 1 Bravo, runway 19er, Safair 129.
Alright, let's watch out for our 10,000 foot marker so that we can turn on our landing lights. We were expected to arrive at 9:05. Time is currently 8:21, so we are well on time.
Safair 187, contact Cape Town Director 124.35.
Contact Cape Town Director 124.35, SaFair 187. Cape Town Director, SaFair 187. Good day, flight level 139er with the numbers.
We don't have to worry about
SaFair 187 Cape Town Director.
the speeds for now because we are going to be turning.
Expect radar vectors for LS Zulu runway 19er.
Okay, let's key now QNH 1016.
QNH 1016, expect radar vectors for ILS Zulu runway 19er, SaFair 187.
Speed brakes can come out just to slow the aircraft down.
SaFair 187, descend to flight level 110.
110.
Descend to flight level 110, SaFair 187.
Cape Town Director, SaFair 841. Good day. Flight level 141 with information, Oscar.
841 Cape Town Director. QNH1016 expect radar vectors. Fly LS Zulu runway 19er.
QNH1016 expect radar vectors for ILS Zulu runway 19er. SouthAfrica 841.
SouthAfrica 841, turn right, heading 270, descend to 8,000 feet. QNH1016, vectors for the approach.
Here's the traffic.
Expect further clearance in about 2 tree miles.
Turn right, heading 270, descend to 8,000 feet. QNH1016, SouthAfrica 841.
Okay, BeyondATC is kind of delayed, so let's just reduce our altitude again to around 8,000 feet and then catch up to the profile. Speed brakes can come on. And we'll probably just set 5,000 for now. Still good on the terrain. Watching the 10,000 foot marker, and then we'll turn on our landing lights as soon as we head below 10,000.
SouthAfrica 187, leave D120H, heading 360. Expect radar vectors. Fly LS Zulu runway 19er.
Below 10,000, the lights can come on.
Leave D120H heading 360. Expect radar vectors for ILS Zulu runway 19er. SouthAfrica 187.
360. In about 5 nautical miles, we'll hit 360.
SouthAfrica 187, turn right, heading 355, vectors for the approach.
355. Heading select.
Turn right, heading 355. SouthAfrica 187.
SouthAfrica 187, descend to 5,000 feet. QNH1016.
Descend to 5,000 feet. QNH1016. SouthAfrica 187.
Alright, we're gonna make our turn at the 15 nautical miles, so we should be at flaps 5 when we hit 15 nautical miles. So 0, 1 and then 5. So we will move to flaps 1 speed at the 10 nautical mile marker. Because we are at flaps 5, we are at flap 0 speed or flaps up speed. That's the maximum speed for flaps 1. So let's just extend the speed brake and then deploy flaps 1.
SouthAfrica 841, descend to 7,000 feet.
Descend to 7,000 feet. SouthAfrica 841.
Right, flaps 1.
Safair 841, descend to 6,000 feet.
Descend to 6,000 feet, Safair 841.
Safair 841, 12 miles from CI 19er, turn left, heading 210, maintain 3,000 feet
Alright,
until
we can slow
established.
down to
Cleared
flex one
ILS
speed.
Zulu runway 19er.
Turn left, heading 210, 3,000 feet until established. Cleared ILS Zulu runway 19er, Safair 841.
Flaps 1 is the max speed for flaps 5, so we can engage flaps 5. Right there we are making our turn.
Safair 187, turn right, heading 020.
Right, 020.
Turn right, heading 020, Safair 187.
Right. Can reduce our speed to flaps 5. We are still below the profile, so we are good.
Safair 187, turn left, heading 310.
Left 310.
Turn left, heading 310, Safair 187.
Alright. Flaps 5 maximum for flaps 15.
Safair 187, descend to 4,000 feet.
4,000.
Descend to 4,000 feet, Safair 187.
DME has got us at 16 nautical miles, so we've picked it up.
CapeTown Director,
There's
Safair
Table
101,
Mountain.
fly at level 141
Perfect.
with the numbers.
Safair 187, 4 miles from CI 19er, turn left, heading 210, maintain 3,000 feet until established.
210.
Cleared ILS Zulu runway 19er.
3,000.
Turn left,
Established.
heading 210, 3,000 feet until
Then we
established.
can hit
Cleared ILS Zulu runway
your
19er,
localizers. We
Safair
are picking it
187.
up.
Safair 101 Cape Town Director. Good day. QNH1016 expect radar vectors for ILS Zulu runway 19er.
QNH QNH1016, expect radar vectors for ILS Zulu runway 19.
Nice turn.
SAFAIR
Nice
101.
Nice turn we pulled off there.
SAFAIR 841. Contact CapeTown Tower 118.1.
Over to Tower 118.1. SAFAIR 841.
Okay, we're good. Speed is good.
SAFAIR 101. Turn right. Heading 270. Descend to 8,000 feet. QNH1016. Vectors for the approach.
Report established.
Expect further
Co-pilot.
clearance in about 2 tree miles.
Turn right, heading 270, descend to 8,000 feet, QNH1016, SAFAIR 101.
Can start dropping our landing gear and then increasing the flaps.
SAFAIR 187, established on final approach.
Reduce speed to flaps 15.
SAFAIR 187. Roger.
Can do 160 knots, that's fine. Then approach mode can be turned on so that we intercept the glide slope which is coming up. Can extend more flaps.
SAFAIR 187. Contact CapeTown Tower 118.1.
Over to Tower 118.1, SAFAIR 187.
Runway is in sight right ahead of us. Table Mountain, there it is.
CapeTown Tower, SAFAIR 187, ILS Zulu runway 19er.
Gear down so we can turn on the lights.
SAFAIR 187. CapeTown Tower, continue.
Full flaps. Then we can head outside
Roger,
to just have
SAFAIR
a look at the
187.
aircraft. Beautiful. Beautiful views. And there's Table Mountain in the background. Absolutely stunning. And this is how we look from the front. Head back inside. Just want to check our light. Taxi light is awesome. Beautiful view. Head back inside, can then tune into our VREF 144. Full flaps, gear down, auto brake set, spoiler armed, and we're good to land.
SAFAIR 841. Exit right at Echo.
Exit right at Echo. SAFAIR 841.
SAFAIR 841. Monitor ground 121.9er. Bye-bye.
Ground 121.9er. SAFAIR 841.
SAFAIR 187. Wind 075 at 4. Runway 19er clear to
1000
land.
foot calling. Autopilot off. Aircraft is
Runway
in my
19er
control.
clear to land, SAFAIR 187.
Traffic.
Go in the center. Just pull the nose up a bit so that we are slightly above the glide slope. And go. Get back on center. Readjust. Perfect, you are good on the glide.
500.
There you go, perfectly on the center.
400.
Pull up.
300.
On the center.
Approaching minimums. 200.
On the center.
Minimums.
Continue.
100. 50, 40, 30, 20, 10.
Perfect touchdown. Reverses deployed.
Virgin for 79 Heavy, runway 19er, line up and wait.
There are our engines.
Runway 19er, line up and wait. Virgin
There
for
we go.
79 Heavy.
Stop reverses. There we go. And we can slow down the aircraft.
SouthAfrica 187, exit next available taxiway.
Then we will exit on the next available taxiway. Tuck in the flaps.
Exit next available taxiway, SouthAfrica 187.
Weather can come off, terrain can come off.
Ladies and gentlemen, the cabin crew will shortly be leaving their seats to perform safety-related duties. However, we ask that you remain seated until the seatbelt sign has been switched off. Portable electronic devices for messaging, calls, or internet access may now be used. Please make sure that you take all your personal belongings with you, checking in the seat pocket, underneath the seat and in the overhead lockers. Do take care when opening the lockers in case anything falls out. Smoking is not permitted until you reach a designated smoking area.
Alright.
On behalf of the captain and the crew, it has been our pleasure looking after you today. Our ground crew will help you complete your self-loading cargo journey. For the latest news, promotions, flight and destination information, check out our official Facebook page,
Landing
Twitter
lights
or the
can
official
come
self-loading cargo app. Thank you.
Let's make our turn. Co-pilot, when ready, request taxi to our parking ramp.
Virgin for 79 Heavy, CapeTown Tower, wind 075 at 4, runway 19er, cleared for takeoff.
Runway 19er, cleared for takeoff. Virgin for 79 Heavy.
SouthAfrica 187, contact ground 121.9er.
Ground 121.9er, SouthAfrica 187, bye-bye. SouthAfrica 187, request taxi to allocated gate.
SouthAfrica 187, ramp Charlie 4 taxi via Bravo 2, Bravo 1.
Ramp Charlie 4 via Bravo 2, Bravo 1, SouthAfrica 187.
Let's try and pull up some SLC. Great landing. Awesome. Are we able to see the rate? ...171 feet per minute. That's incredible.
SouthAfrica 132, contact CapeTown Tower 118.1, bye-bye.
Awesome. Bit more throttle.
Contact Tower 118.1, SouthAfrica 132.
Let's look at our aircraft. Beautiful. Let's just clear our parking space of any AI traffic that we might have. Free this from AI. Right. And because we are about to make our turn in, can proceed to turn off our lights. APU gens are all good. Alright, turn off our taxi lights. We are looking for Charlie 4. So we've got 5, slow down a bit. I'm looking for Charlie 4 and let's make our turn. Not too fast. Keep the body right on the center. Fine adjustments. There we go. And stop. That's fine. Can pull up the parking brake. Proceed to set the chokes.
Fair 101, gate Alpha 1
Call for ground power. APU gens.
Gate Alpha 1 2 by
Turn off
Echo.
the engines.
Fair 101.
Signal signs can be turned off. Strobes are off. Anti-collision light can come off. Hey, we got a perfect parking. Awesome. There you go, clear that. Okay, ground crew is connected. APU can go to turn on ground power. APU can come off. Let's request for deboarding.
The boarding requested.
Awesome stuff. Now is the time where we are going to review how well we did on that flight.
Request pushback. Link Oscar Tango Mike, CapeTown ground, pushback and engine start approved. Face northwest. Pushback approved, face northwest, Link Oscar Tango Mike.
Right, I'm just pulling up the report.
Ladies and gentlemen,
Passengers bus
your
is
portable
coming.
electronic devices must not be used until you are inside the airport. When disembarking, please take care and hold onto the handrails while walking down the stairs. Please ensure that you supervise your children, and for your own safety do not walk underneath the wing.
Alright, then this is our flight report for today's flight. As you can see, we flew from King Shaka to Cape Town and we scored perfect scores on every assessment criteria. That's perfect. Landing rate 171 feet per minute and landing g-force of 1.24. Then let's have a look at our landing details. So we can make this bigger and then just remove this for now. So this is how we approached. Perfect. There's our aiming point and we touched down well within the touchdown zone marked by these touchdown markers. So right after the aiming point we did touch down. Landing rate 171. Awesome. I'm happy with that landing. We then taxied to our parking spot right there. I'm happy with that.
Link Oscar Tango Mike.
We did
Taxi
pretty
for
well on
departure.
this flight. And let's pull up the community or
Link Oscar
the
Tango
airline
Mike, runway 19,
leaderboard.
a taxi via Bravo
As much
1,
as we
Alpha
are
1,
just
Alpha,
flying for
Alpha 2.
enjoyment, I do also want to become one of the top pilots for FlySafair on
Runway 19er
pilots
taxi via Bravo 1,
life
Alpha 1,
chapter 2.
Alpha,
So I'm
Alpha
currently
2,
number
Link Oscar
30
Tango Mike.
and I am rated as a senior captain. Awesome. That's good stuff. Let's have a look outside the aircraft. And a spin around. We'll look at our passengers. Yep, I think I'll enjoy this view here. That should be perfect. Well, ladies and gentlemen, captains, I trust that you enjoyed that flight as much as I enjoyed flying it with you and having you on board. As you can see, we scored pretty well on our Pilot's Life Chapter 2 scoring card, so I am proud of that. It was an awesome flight, no issues reported, perfect landing, nice and smooth, and the update for SLC really worked well, and it looks great too. The user interface really looks great. Just wanted to give a special thank you to all my viewers, those who are new and those who are returning to the channel to just keep up with the content that I'm posting. I really wanted to send my appreciation to you guys and just let you know that every split second that you put into watching these videos really goes a long way. If you haven't, please do like the video and subscribe to my channel. It really assists with the algorithm. In conclusion, ladies and gentlemen, I really enjoyed this flight and I thoroughly hope to see you guys on our next flight. Keep well, keep calm, and I'll see you in the skies. Goodbye.
Link Oscar Tango Mike. Contact CapeTown Tower 118.1. Contact Tower 118.1. Link Oscar Tango Mike. Have a good day.